Welcome to Verge File.
Support the channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. I promise even more interesting stories. I came home from work and found dinner on the stove, untouched. The lights were on, her coat on the hook, shoes at the door. But she didn't say a word, just walked past me like I was furniture. No, hey. No, how was your day? Nothing. That was day one. At first, I thought maybe she had a rough afternoon. Maybe someone pissed her off at work. Maybe I said something without realizing. But it wasn't just a mood. This was different. Because it didn't stop. Day 3, same thing. She moved around the house like a ghost. Made her coffee, folded laundry, scrolled on her phone. But never once looked at me. Not even eye contact. I asked her directly, did I do something? No answer. She literally walked out of the room. Day 6, I stopped trying. The silence wasn't passive anymore. It was calculated. Like she needed me to suffer without knowing why. She knew exactly what she was doing. Pulling back completely, like erasing herself from the marriage, but still sleeping in the same bed. Or rather, the same room. She turned away from me every night like I wasn't there. And I started questioning everything. What did I miss? Was she planning to leave? Was there someone else? I combed through old texts, replayed conversations, checked her recent calls. Nothing. Clean. Too clean. Her silence wasn't about pain, it was power. She was watching to see how long I'd beg. I didn't. Not this time. That was the shift. I stopped asking. Stopped chasing. I moved in silence too. Quiet mornings. Focused evenings. I worked out. Ate alone. Slept peacefully for the first time in weeks. But the tension was unbearable. It was like a game of chicken. Who'd break first? Then came the call. I was on the porch, sipping black coffee. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Usually, I ignore those, but something made me answer. A woman's voice. Calm. Confident. Is this Daniel Thompson? Yes, I said. I'm not sure if you know who I am, but I think your wife knows my husband. I didn't speak. Didn't breathe. She's been texting him. Meeting up. And just like that, the silence made sense. She hadn't stopped talking. She'd just changed who she talked to. I didn't tell her I knew. Not yet. I watched. Observed. And for the first time, I saw the cracks. The way she guarded her phone. The sudden gym sessions. The fake laughs at her screen. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't accuse. I became invisible by choice. If she wanted me to vanish emotionally, I'd finish the job physically. What she didn't know was that the countdown had started. She gave me 30 silent days. Now I was going to give her one answer she wouldn't hear coming. This story isn't about heartbreak. It's about what happens when the man she thought would wait forever stops waiting. The silence stopped being a punishment. It became data. Every move she made told me more than words ever could. She was clockwork now. 7:10 a.m. Shower. 8 o'clock, keys. Gym bag over shoulder. Phone in hand. No goodbye. No glance. Just silence and exits. Always checking her reflection in the hallway mirror before she left. Not for me, but for someone she hadn't admitted to yet. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I wasn't looking for a confession. I was building a case. I changed my routine, too, strategically. I stopped waking up with her. I'd let her move through the house alone, so she wouldn't feel watched. Meanwhile, I installed a second bank account, rerouted my direct deposit, transferred documents to my office, logged out of shared platforms, removed her emergency access to anything with my name on it. Shadow 3. 0. The man who disappears while standing in the same room. She thought she was in control, that her silence would wear me down. But every time she passed me without speaking, I saw it for what it really was, hesitation. She wasn't sure what I knew. That uncertainty, that was my advantage. I let it grow. On day 23, I called a lawyer. Kept it clean. No emotions. Just steps. Can you ensure she never sees it coming? I asked. His reply? You'll be out before she finishes her morning coffee. Perfect. Day 25, I hired a private investigator. Not because I needed proof. I already had enough. But I wanted details, times, names, patterns. I wasn't going to accuse her. I was going to erase her. That's what she never understood. I wasn't fighting for her anymore. I was preparing her absence. Her silence gave me time. Time to detach, to regain clarity, to study her like a stranger under surveillance. Every fake laugh on the phone. Every late night with the girls. Every new notification, she turned face down. She was digging her own exit. And I was preparing the door. One night, as she sat scrolling next to me, Not saying a word, I glanced at her screen. A man's name popped up. I didn't flinch. Didn't look again. She angled it away, a defensive move that confirmed everything. She assumed I hadn't seen it, that I didn't care. She was right about the second part. The woman I married was already gone. What remained was a placeholder in my home, playing silent war games while thinking I was still on the battlefield. I wasn't. I had already left. My body was there. My spirit? Long gone. By day 30, I had the documents, the evidence, the exit plan. She gave me 30 days of silence. I was about to give her the rest of her life with it. Day 31. I remember it down to the hour, 6:47 p.m. That's when my phone rang. Not hers. Not ours. Mine. It was Olivia. Olivia, my college friend. She'd called to invite me to speak at a local business panel. Nothing personal, nothing suggestive. But her name flashing on my screen was enough to ignite something in the woman across the room. Until then, my wife had gone a full month without uttering a single word to me. 31 days of silence, smug looks, and doors that closed a second too loud. But the second Olivia's name appeared, her lips moved, like they hadn't forgotten how. "Who's that?" she asked, not even hiding the venom. I let the phone ring, not because I needed time to think, but because I wanted her to hear it, each vibration like a ticking clock. Her mask cracked in real time. 31 days of frozen pride, undone by 3 syllables on my screen. I picked up, stepped into the hallway, and shut the door gently. That's when her voice followed me, suddenly loud, suddenly curious, suddenly awake. "You're not going to answer me?" she called out. "Is that how this works now?" Now. She had erased me for a month, and the moment she felt the thread slip from her hands, she panicked. Not because she missed me, but because the control she thought she had was gone. I didn't respond. I spoke to Olivia, confirmed the event, kept it brief, professional. When I returned to the living room, she was standing, arms crossed, eyes red, not from tears, but confusion, disbelief, maybe fear. "Who is she to you?" she asked. I looked at her like I'd never seen her before. "She's someone who talks to me," I said flatly, "which already puts her above you." That landed. She blinked, stepped back like I'd slapped her. For a split second, I saw the woman I married, the one who used to reach for my hand instead of her ego. But I didn't reach back. I stood there, not angry, not pleading, just done. She tried to speak again. Something about misunderstanding, about feeling disconnected, about needing time. But her voice shook now, not with strength, with doubt. That's what silence does. It carves out space. And when you don't fill it, someone else does. I walked past her. No shout. No slam. Just quiet finality. In the bedroom, I pulled open the drawer I'd prepared. New keys, new lease, new account. I was 3 steps ahead. Her realization came too late. That night, she knocked on the door. Her voice soft now, careful. "Can we talk?" But talk was never the point. Action was. And I had already taken mine. She knocked again. 2 soft taps, like that would undo 31 days of silence. I didn't answer. Not out of spite, but because I'd already mentally moved out. My body was still in the house, but my decision had been made a long time ago. She lingered by the door, waiting. Maybe for a reaction. Maybe for permission to feel something. But I gave her nothing. The next morning, I was gone before sunrise. I left my wedding ring on the kitchen counter. No note. No confrontation. Just absence. That silence she weaponized? I returned it with interest. By the time she got up, the car title was transferred, the joint bank account frozen, and my name removed from the mortgage. I had already met with my lawyer. This wasn't a rage move. It was precision. Cold. Controlled. Shadow X. At 9:13 a.m., she texted, "Where are you?" I didn't respond. At 9:37, "Can we please talk?" Nothing. By 10:02. I didn't mean for it to go like this. I thought space would help. No reply. Because space wasn't the problem. Distance is only healing when both sides want to close it. She used it to punish. I used it to disappear. By noon, my phone was ringing. Nonstop. Her sister. Her mother. Even her coworker Megan, who once called me too emotionally unavailable. Ironic, now. I turned my phone off. The new apartment was empty. Just a mattress, my laptop, and a single chair. But it felt more like home than the house we'd shared for 6 years. That night, I sat in silence. The kind I chose, not the kind I was sentenced to. Around 11:45 p.m., I checked the camera feed from the doorbell I hadn't yet disconnected. She was there, standing outside the house, pacing, holding her phone to her ear, calling, probably leaving voicemails filled with things she should have said weeks ago. But the thing about silence is, once you teach someone to live in it, they stop checking for echoes. The next day, she posted some cryptic message on Instagram. Something about working on herself and communication going both ways. Her friends flooded the comments with heart emojis and supportive cliches. None of them knew the full story. She made sure of that. I didn't reply. I didn't even watch the stories. I had already deleted her from every login. Netflix, Spotify, even the grocery delivery account. I'd erased the ghost of our routine. That's how Shadow X moves. Silently, surgically, without drama. She thought silence was power. I showed her what silence looked like when it was permanent. When she finally showed up at my new place, knocking like she hadn't disappeared for a month, all I did was open the door halfway. And then I closed it. No words. Just closure. There's a moment, right after someone realizes they've lost control, when their eyes flicker. It's not fear. It's not guilt. It's pure disbelief. Like the world finally stopped spinning for them, and they don't understand why. I saw that flicker in her eyes when I closed the door on her. She stood there, frozen, expecting something. A conversation, an explanation, maybe even a breakdown. But I gave her nothing. That door wasn't just wood and metal, it was a mirror. And in it, she saw the reflection of her own silence. Finally, I didn't block her. That would have made it easier for her to play the victim. I let her send her texts. Let her spiral. I watched, stone-faced, as she unraveled the threads she once held tight. The first message came with fake softness. I miss you. Can we just talk? Then came the guilt trap. I was going through a lot. You weren't there emotionally. And finally, the desperation. I'll do anything. Please, just give me one more chance. She wasn't reaching for me. She was reaching for the version of me that tolerated being ignored. The man who sat in the same house as her for a month and still cooked dinner like a fool. But that man was dead. I started training again. Early mornings, cold showers, no distractions. The gym became my ritual. The barbell didn't ghost me. The weights didn't withhold affection. Every drop of sweat was a brick in the wall I was building between her and my new life. People noticed. My coworkers started asking if I was seeing someone. I wasn't. But they saw the shift. The absence of chaos makes space for strength. That's what Shadow X is. Calculated stillness, not empty silence. A mutual friend, Brian, tried to play mediator. Said she was really sorry. That she just didn't know how to express her emotions. I looked him in the eye and told him. She expressed them. For 31 days straight. Loud and clear. He didn't have much to say after that. That weekend, she tried again. This time, she emailed me. A long, sprawling confession. Regret, memories, promises. She even attached old photos of us. As if nostalgia could undo neglect. I didn't respond. I archived it. Instead, I called my lawyer. Made the divorce official. No drama. No warning. Just a final document that said, enough. I sent her the papers with a single subject line. You taught me silence. I just mastered it. Let her sit with that. The day the divorce papers were delivered, it rained. Not heavy, just enough to blur the world into something soft and forgettable. I sat in the car across the street, engine off, watching as the courier walked up to the porch. She answered in pajamas, her hair a mess, like time had slowed down for her, but not in the way she hoped. When the envelope hit her hand, she froze. She didn't open it. Didn't need to. She knew. Some truths don't need to be read. They echo through bone. I drove off before she could look up. Not out of fear, but because the next phase of my life didn't have her in it. Not even as a footnote. That night, I returned to the house we used to share. Not to see her. I'd changed the locks weeks ago. I came for the last purge. I walked through each room with surgical clarity. The kitchen where I used to cook for her while she scrolled on her phone. The living room where she'd laugh at shows, never noticing I was sitting in silence right beside her. The bedroom, where distance grew between bodies that once couldn't be separated. I packed everything that had her scent on it. Candles, throw blankets, old cards she left half-signed, pretending to be affectionate. I dropped them all in a donation box. Some poor soul would inherit the lie. I didn't care. Let them burn it or believe in it. Then I opened the closet. Her clothes were still there. Dozens of outfits. Dresses she wore on dates, not with me. Shoes that clicked on sidewalks I never walked beside her on. I left them. That closet was a museum. Let it rot. I painted the bedroom walls that night. Covered the memories with matte black. Cold. Clean. Final. The next morning, I walked outside. The sun was up. The air was crisp. The house still stood. She didn't. A neighbor waved at me. Said it was good to see me again. I realized something. I hadn't been seen in a long time. I'd existed next to someone who chose to ignore me so thoroughly. I became part of the furniture. Not anymore. I wasn't the man she left in silence. I was the man who'd weaponized it, who'd studied her moves, mirrored them, and then moved on in a way she never expected. She thought silence was a power play. I turned it into my battlefield. She came back 2 days later. Not to apologize. Not to cry. She came for her shoes. That was it. That's all she said. I left some heels in the closet. No hello. No regret. Just entitlement wrapped in perfume. I didn't say a word. I stepped aside and let her walk in. She didn't recognize the house anymore. The black walls in the bedroom. The empty frames. The silence so loud it rang in her ears. She paused in the doorway. Her eyes flicked across the room like she was trying to understand what changed, what part of me she lost. She didn't know I'd been gone long before she ever cheated. She moved like a stranger in a museum of a life she once lived. Her fingers brushed the edge of the dresser. No photos. No memories. Just space. She opened the closet, pulled out a few pairs of heels, and hesitated. I watched her hand hover over a pair of red stilettos. The ones she wore the night she lied about being out with the girls. I remembered the text she sent that night. Don't wait up. She didn't know I didn't. As she turned to leave, she stopped in the hallway. Her voice cracked, just once. This place feels empty. I didn't answer. Because that wasn't a question. That was a confession. She left, shoes in hand, ghost in the mirror. I locked the door behind her, one click louder than any argument we ever had. That night, I sat on the porch. The sky was clear. Stars above, silent witnesses to everything we didn't say. My phone buzzed. A message from an old friend, someone I hadn't spoken to in months. He asked if I wanted to join a hiking group next weekend. I said yes. Not because I liked hiking, but because I needed new terrain. The kind that didn't have her footprints in it. The next day, I called the realtor. Told her the house was going on the market. Not out of spite. Out of necessity. You don't heal in the place you were broken. And I wasn't just healing. I was evolving. She thought she left a man who'd chase her. What she really left was a man who knew how to disappear with dignity. Not just from her life, but from her control. 3 days after she came for her shoes, she sent me a voice note. I didn't play it. I just stared at the waveform. There was something pathetic about it. Her trying to speak when silence had already answered everything. I deleted it. No drama. No performance. Just one quiet flick and it was gone. I wasn't curious anymore. I didn't want closure. I didn't want pain. I wanted distance, and I was building it like a fortress. Each morning I ran farther than the last. No music, no distractions. Just the sound of my breath, my shoes on concrete, and the rush of wind that didn't ask questions. I was erasing her, mile by mile. At work, I was sharper, focused. The same colleagues who pitted me when I looked like a ghost now asked what I was on. I just smiled. No need to tell them that rock bottom is the most honest mirror you'll ever face. You either break there or sharpen. I chose the latter. One afternoon, as I was heading to a client meeting, I saw her again. Not in person, on LinkedIn. Her name popped up in my notifications. She'd viewed my profile. Twice. I didn't click hers. That's the thing about control. When you truly have it, you don't use it. I went to that meeting and closed the biggest deal of my quarter. When the client shook my hand, he said, "There's something calm about you. Like you've already won something before you walked in." He had no idea how right he was. That weekend, I joined that hiking group. 10 strangers, 1 mountain. No one knew my story, and I didn't offer it. But on that trail, as we climbed in silence, something strange happened. I realized I wasn't carrying her anymore. Not her lies. Not her perfume. Not her ghost. Just my own breath and the strength in my legs. When we reached the summit, the view was brutal in its beauty. Raw. Untouched. Free. I stood there, phone off, no one to impress, and finally felt like I was back in my own life. And in that moment, I whispered just 2 words into the wind. Never again. 2 weeks of silence. No calls. No texts. No accidental run-ins. Just the vacuum she left behind and the strange peace it brought. Until Tuesday, a package arrived at my door. No return address. Just my name in handwriting I knew too well. Inside, an envelope, a Polaroid of us from 3 years ago, and a note that said, "I'm sorry for everything. I wish I could undo it." I didn't read it twice. I slid the photo back into the envelope, walked outside, and dropped it into the nearest trash bin without flinching. Closure doesn't come in envelopes. It comes in decisions. Mine was already made, but her timing was poetic. That same day, a recruiter reached out. A position across the country, more money, full relocation, a fresh start. I took the call, then the second, then the third. 3 days later, I signed. I wasn't just moving on. I was moving. Packing was surgical. No nostalgia. No hesitations. I donated everything that reminded me of her. Even the mug she once said looked like me. Whatever that meant. The apartment felt empty, but not in a painful way. It was cleansing, like stripping off a skin that never fit right. On my last night in town, I walked to our old wine bar. Not to drink, just to stand across the street and watch it one final time. And there she was, sitting on the patio, alone, glass in hand, staring into nothing. She didn't see me. I didn't want her to. There was nothing left to say. I turned and walked away, not out of spite, but completion. That chapter was over. And she was no longer the protagonist in my story. She was just someone I used to know. The next morning, I was on a plane. New city, new skyline, new air. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I wasn't haunted. I wasn't angry. I wasn't broken. I was empty in the best way possible. A blank canvas, not a ruin. And that's when I knew. She lost a man who would have done anything for her. And I lost a weight I should have dropped long ago. 3 months passed. Quiet. Clean. I built a new rhythm. New apartment. New city. New rituals. No shared toothbrushes. No phantom footsteps in the hallway. Just me, black coffee, and a skyline that didn't hold memories. I didn't block her. I didn't have to. Ghosts don't need notifications. They linger in silence, waiting for cracks. I didn't leave any. One evening, I got tagged in an old friend's wedding post. Nothing special. Until I saw her name in the comments. A single heart emoji under someone else's photo. A man I didn't recognize. But his hand was on her waist like it belonged there. I didn't feel anger. I didn't even blink. That version of her, of us, was gone. And honestly, I didn't care who picked up the ashes. The truth? I didn't miss her. I missed the version of me who hadn't been lied to. But that version was naive, vulnerable, soft in all the wrong places. He died the moment I stood outside that wine bar and chose silence over spectacle. What came after wasn't revenge. It was resurrection. I started running again. Not from anything. For the first time in years, I was running towards something. I reconnected with old friends. Not the ones who took sides. The real ones. The ones who noticed I disappeared and quietly waited for me to return. One night, I got dinner with my sister. She looked at me over the rim of her glass and said, "You look different." I did. I felt different. I wasn't a man who'd been hurt. I was a man who'd healed, alone, cold, deliberately. She sent one last message. Weeks after the wedding post. "I hope you're doing well. I miss talking to you." I didn't reply. I didn't even open it. Some things deserve silence more than closure. Some people don't get a second version of you. She chose secrets over partnership, lies over loyalty, and I chose to disappear without slamming the door. No fire. No final word. Just distance. The kind you don't measure in miles, but in indifference. Let that be the last thing she remembers. Not my voice. Not my anger. Just the sound of a man who walked away and never looked back. Drop it in the comments. Hit subscribe. This is where we talk about what doesn't get forgiven.